Welcome back to America on the Road. This is Jack Nerad along with Chris Teague, and it is road test time on America on the Road. We're so happy you're with us on America on the Road. Thanks for listening. And Chris, we were talking about EVs in the previous segment, and here you are reviewing one. I think a fairly compelling one. I believe the North American Sport Utility of the Year as well. Let's talk about the Kia EV9.
Yeah, it was a compelling vehicle. I enjoyed my week with it. It's a 2024 Kia EV9. I tested the top GT line trim, which is around $76,000 before options and taxes. But you can get into it for as little as $56,400. Now, Jack, I'm going to get your opinion on this. These are pretty stout numbers for a Kia. Not so bad for the EVs is what we're seeing in the world now. But what do you think about the Kia EV9, its price tag, and how it's positioned?
I think the price tag is the difficulty I have with the vehicle. I'm seeing a few now owned by civilians out there, and it kind of makes sense that would take place. It's a compelling looking vehicle. There's no doubt about that. But the vehicle I'm going to talk about the same size, the Hyundai Santa Fe, much less expensive.
Yeah, much less. But the range on this thing is pretty reasonable. So the base trim with rear wheel drive gets 304 miles of range on a charge. My top trim with the larger wheels and the dual batteries and dual motors and all wheel drive was 230 miles of range. So you got quite a big range of ranges there, so to speak,
right?
With the cheapest one being the most efficient. But the base model's got 215 horsepower, 230 miles of range, as I said. And you get about a 7.5 second 0 to 60 on that one. My range topping model had 379 horsepower. It actually gets up to 280 miles of range depending on the configuration, but as I said, the larger wheels kind of knock that down a little bit. And the 0 to 60 is quite a bit quicker at around 5.5 seconds. So you lose some range, but you gain 2 seconds on your 0 to 60, which I'm not sure that's all that important for a 3-row SUV, but people who want all-wheel drive, you're going to have to deal with the range trade-off there. The extra motor does drag some of that down. As I mentioned, all-wheel drive feels very, very stable in this vehicle. We drove it in some extremely heavy rain. It kept the traction. It didn't have any issues there at all. The ride in this vehicle is very smooth. It's also extremely quiet. One of the things I appreciated that Kia did here was make it feel premium. So when you're sitting inside the vehicle on the highway or at any speed at all, most of that road noise, the wind noise, and the tire sounds are kind of drowned out by the car's sound deadening, and I really appreciated that. It does make it feel more special than just a run-of-the-mill Kia. You got a comfortable ride quality, as I said, very quiet. And the acceleration here, Jack, even in the range-topping model, I never felt the need to put my foot down to go 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds. So again, I think if you're not looking for speed, which again with a 3-row SUV, it's really, I would go for a cheaper trim, maybe even the rear-wheel drive if you live in Southern California where it rarely snows. You get standard synthetic leather upholstery, again, 3-row vehicle. So the standard configuration, you don't get heated front seats, but heated front seats are available. And mine had heated and ventilated front seats, heated and ventilated second row captain's chairs. And Jack, I'm going to get your opinion on this. We've talked about this many times. I enjoy captain's chairs, especially if you have 2 children. It kind of gives you a little more space in between them. And you can also access the third row seat a little bit better. What do you think of the EV9's interior and of captain's chairs in general?
It kind of depends on the configuration of your family, I think. I mean, I have 3 children, so in that kind of situation with captain chairs in the second row, somebody has to go in the third row, or somebody had to go in the third row. I now have grown children, so I'm not experiencing that as much. But when we take family vacations now, one of our daughters probably is going to end up in that third row, which is very frequently not nearly as nice as the 2 front rows. So that's kind of my take on it, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of room in this vehicle either way. As I said, I appreciate the third row, the captain's chairs in the second row, because it lets you access the third row a little bit easier and you have that room in between. Tech in this vehicle is very good, Jack. We've talked about this a lot. I really enjoy Kia's infotainment system. You get a 12.3-inch upper screen and a 5-inch lower display screen, as well as a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster. Kia's is not as configurable, the gauges, as like a Volkswagen, where you can show full screen maps and things in your gauge cluster, but there's a lot of information there. It's well laid out. It's easy to read when you're driving. And this vehicle had the available head-up display, so you have even more visibility options there. So there's never really any question about what's going on. You get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. My vehicle had wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, wireless charging, a Wi-Fi hotspot, Bluetooth. So the whole deal here, as I mentioned, the Kia's infotainment system runs perfectly on this screen. It's very easy to see. It's responsive. So there's really not a lot of distraction while you're driving unless you get bogged down in menus and things. But that's really kind of a user thing and not necessarily the way that Kia designed the system. This top trim comes with a full suite of advanced safety equipment. You get a blind spot camera system, forward automatic emergency braking, if I can spit that one out, for collision alerts and so on. So really, Jack, I think, like you said, the price here is my big hang up. Again, I realize the EVs are expensive right now, but almost 80 grand for a Kia in the top trim here and maybe exceeding 80,000 depending on your options is a little stout for my taste, but overall an excellent vehicle.
Yeah, I think it's a great vehicle. I'm not wild about the price. I'm kind of in the same boat that you are. And